Hello zusammen. Welcome to another edition of Feedback Freitag for the third week of the term. Hopefully by now you're starting to get used to the rhythm of German 101. It's an intensive course. You have a number of deliverables each week, and that requires studying for them, and preparing for them, completing exercises and whatnot. And especially this week, the first Anreise wasn't too complex. You were writing some actual German sentences, which is great, but it will get more challenging as we go. You'll be asked to write more. So just try to keep track of how much time everything takes you in this course, and make sure you dedicate enough time as well for each of the assignments and the preparation that goes into either studying for a Freitag controller or a town controller, or doing the actual work required for the Anreise. But so far so good. Excellent work thus far in the course. Nonetheless, there's still some things that are worth talking about a little bit today and sharing some thoughts about that Sarah and I noticed over the past week. There's not a lot of specifics, but more things to keep track of overall as you continue the course. So the first goes back to the notion of capital letters. Again, I spoke about this last week, and the whole idea that remember all nouns in German will have a capital letter at the beginning, and if it's not a noun, it won't have a capital letter unless it's at the start of a sentence. So again, it tends to take a couple of weeks for that to really take hold in your mind. A lot of you over the course of the past week have been doing that correctly, but there's still little bits here and there where you just might forget about it. So we're going to become a little bit more strict on that. So I just want to reassure you that you got to keep that in mind as you write German, think about German. Nouns get capital letters. If it's not a noun, it does not. One kind of added wrinkle to that came up this week was the idea with numbers, right? Like numbers kind of fill a different void. They're not nouns, but they're also not like adjectives or verbs or whatnot. But nonetheless, if it's a number, it doesn't get a capital letter either. So again, another thing to just keep track of. The second item is with regards to nouns and their articles in German. So by now, you're starting to get the idea that in German, all nouns have a gender. It's either going to be masculine, feminine, or neuter. It's going to become increasingly important, however, to keep track of what the gender of that noun actually is, because the gender of the noun tells us a whole lot about the noun. And although right now it might seem kind of silly to have to remember what the gender of a noun is, like why is das Buch das Buch, why is der Hund, what does it ultimately matter? It will become increasingly more important as you learn more German, and especially when you start to use adjectives to describe nouns. The gender is incredibly important to help us then actually talk about that noun and use the appropriate adjective and the appropriate ending. So right now, as you learn new vocabulary items, don't just learn that it's, that a book is Buch auf Deutsch. Learn that a book is das Buch auf Deutsch, that it's neuter, it's das Buch. And I guess it's important as well that we're starting to learn that there are both indefinite and definite articles. We can say ein Buch, we can say das Buch. We can say ein Hund, we can say der Hund. But what's important for you when trying to show us that you know the correct gender is use those definite articles, der, die, and das. I need to know that it's das Buch and not ein Buch, because I can't tell if you say ein Buch whether or not you know that it's masculine or neuter. It uses the same indefinite article. But if you tell me that it's das Buch, I know then that you know it's a neuter noun, because das Buch is different than der Buch. So just, if ever we ask you to tell us the translation of a noun in German, just by definition, we're going to want to see the correct definite article with it so that you can show us that you know the gender with it as well. The final thing that's more, again, of an overarching thing to keep in mind is just kind of be aware of autocorrect when you write in German. If you tend to write your Anreisen in, say, Microsoft Word ahead of time or any other word processor that has autocorrect, you might find sometimes that autocorrect tries to be helpful and transform your German into English, and then when you copy paste it into a discussion board or into a Dropbox or whatnot, you might not have intended for things to be spelled incorrectly, but for all intents and purposes, they are spelled incorrectly. So I guess more than anything, when you write in German, be sure to look at it after the fact and basically proofread your work so that you can recache the things that autocorrect changed on you, make the correction, and then put it into the correct submission format afterwards. I can usually tell that yes, it's probably an autocorrect thing, but sometimes I can't, and therefore if it's spelled incorrectly, it's spelled incorrectly. And I don't want to have to necessarily dock marks off of your submissions just because autocorrect changed something back that you know was correct. So just get into the habit of looking over your work, correcting it, proofreading it, and then submitting after the fact. So in any case, good job on really what was the first really full week. Again, put aside control of the due Sunday night, analyze due the next Tuesday, and again that next analyze will be a bit more complex. So all the best with that. Schönes Wochenende, have a good weekend, and we will see you again next week. Okay, tschüss.